You know how hard it is to keep that guy just sitting there waiting by his piano, just waiting to play every week, and then he plays for like 30 seconds. I give him $5 and he goes home.
Oh, he sits there and waits for $5 for
Yeah,
five
yeah.
lousy bucks.
You think they'd come up with technology we could actually, record stuff? But hey, everybody, welcome to Pop Go the Writers. I'm Dan. That's Jim. It is December 10th. Sure, let's go with
It,
December 10th.
it is the 10th, yes.
Yeah, let
Yep.
me tone down that light a little bit. I was a little washed out there. So, how you doing, Mr. Beard?
I'm doing just fine, Mr. Wickline. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm here. That's always the first step to admitting you have a problem. Sorry, felt like an AA meeting all of a
As
sudden.
long as I'm not your problem.
Uh, no, this has been a very strange week for me because I've changed how I'm doing things during the week on the Dan Wickline show. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I'm not doing 3 live shows a week anymore. What I'm doing is well, this last week we did a live news broadcast on Tuesday at the normal time, which
mhm.
was about a half hour, just catching everybody up on all the news since the last time I did the show. I didn't do a
Okay.
show Wednesday. And then Thursday, we did what we're calling the big show, which ran closer to 90 minutes.
Okay.
And that did a deep dive into the character of Bill Foster, because he's going to be appearing in the upcoming What If series. We did more news. We did some key collectibles for Bill Foster, that type of thing. And that's how we're going to shift up the show. We're going to do it for at least this month, but we're probably going to record the news. So the news broadcast will, I've already been working on it, catching up all the news. Every time something pops up, I go ahead and write up a paragraph or so on it. And then I'll record that. And then we'll just do the live show on Thursdays, which is going to free me up for basically making Thursday a better show,
Mm.
and during December, it's usually a dead month anyway, trying to come up with topics.
Why did you
So
make the change?
we're trying different things. We're seeing that not all live shows aren't doing as well as they were, where recorded shows are doing better. So we're trying to
Okay.
mix it up a bit and see, you
Okay.
know. So
We
yeah, we're
don't
gonna see.
yeah, we don't get as many live people here, I've noticed, as like we used to.
No, we usually get maybe 4 or 5 during the show, but then we
Mhm.
get a lot more when people catch it later on, and then
Sure.
also when it gets replayed on the experience.
Sure.
We get a
How
few hits.
long how long have you been doing the Dan Wickline show?
A couple years now.
Okay. How was it decided upon in the beginning to do it 3 times, or
That was just my idea.
okay.
I came to them and I
What,
said,
you were
"Hey,
some kind of masochist?
I was looking at a couple of shows that were on the air at the time. A couple of guys who were doing daily shows, and I thought, well, give me a time slot I could have every day."
Hmm.
And the one they offered me, I wouldn't be able to do Mondays because they had a show on the Monday slot, but I could do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I said, well, let's go with Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll go from there. Actually, I think originally the Tuesday show was, no, the Thursday show was later.
Mhm.
I did Tuesday, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, and then Thursday was at like 5. And I was also doing the review show on Tuesdays. But so we're cutting that back. So I'm not on the air as much. But when I am, I'm doing I'm doing better quality stuff because I'm able to put more time into it. Because there's been days that I wake up and,
Mhm.
I've got 3 hours to do all the rest of my work, and I have to come up with a topic and do all the, I don't even have a topic ready. So, Jim, it looks like you froze.
Well, I It was funny because you were freezing there for a moment. So
Yeah.
how's it now?
You're still frozen, but I can
Now
hear
you're
you. So that's
completely
kind
frozen.
of, yeah. Okay. One of us is
Maybe
having
we should
connection.
start singing songs from Frozen.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Hmm.
That is literally the only line I know. That oh, now you're moving. Yeah. That and let it go, let it go.
Are you there?
Yeah. All right. Let's see if we can, get this straightened out. I will continue
You know
talking.
that I do.
So
Okay.
yeah.
I was actually sitting very, very still and listening intently.
I believe that. I believe that. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
uh, the good news is that currently you and I collectively have scored as many points today as the Oakland Raiders. So we're having a good day.
Are you there?
I'm here. Uh, hey, I know there's a couple people watching. If you are in the audience, can you tell us which one
Dan,
of
I'm
us is
gonna
breathing?
I'm gonna go out and come.
Okay. Go for it, man.
Okay.
Okay, it's going to be one of those episodes. All right. So if you can hear me and I'm the one moving, then Jim is freezing more. Okay. Thank you, Scott. All right. So it's going to be me until Jim comes back. Um, when Jim comes back, we're going to talk about the new Doctor Who, the 360th anniversary specials. One of them is pretty interesting because there's the generation into the new Doctor, and it's something very different. So, hey, there's Jim. Hello, Jim. Oh, this is going to be fun. Okay. So, you're moving, so I don't know what's going on. Okay, anyway, so we're going to talk about that because if you've seen the new Doctor Who, then you know the swap between David Tennant, who had returned for the specials for the 60th anniversary, and the new Doctor, Chudi Gawa, was very different. It was not like, well, I want to say it was not like any of the other regenerations, but there's been some very different regenerations. If you look at the Tom Baker one where there is the Watcher, you look at Patrick Troughton's where he actually was forced to regenerate. Those were very different than like Eccleston into Tennant, Tennant into Smith, Smith into um, Capaldi, Capaldi into Whitaker. So yeah, it's this one is just happened very differently, had a very different result. So okay, Jim, are you back? Okay. Anyway, so we're going to try to get this worked out. And
I can see you moving now. Can you hear me?
I can hear
No.
you.
Jeez. Oh, you can. Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
How weird.
Yep. It's just a little bit of lag.
Okay.
Why don't you tell us your thoughts on the episode The Giggle.
Okay, I really liked it a lot. I didn't, know every single thing about everything that was being said. I had to ask, my podcasting partner some questions about it. But overall, I really enjoyed it as a story, as character bits and all of that. The only thing that I wasn't entirely fond of was the idea of two doctors existing at the same time. And
I'm
that's
curious.
a lot of that has to go ahead.
I'm curious about the two doctors existing at the same time. I kind of thought they would wrap that up by the end of the episode, like and put it back to normal, but they didn't.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't care much for it because in general, I feel like it's unfair to Shooty that everybody knows that the tenant doctor is still around, even though he's sort of like retired or whatever. You can't leave him there without everybody still asking about him, wondering about him, thinking about him, wanting him back, on and on and on and on and on. I don't see how it's fair at all to the new guy. Uh, you know, I was told that there was some talk that people were saying like, "Oh, this is the show's way of hedging their bets." Like if it didn't go well or the reaction was poor to Shooty and it's like, no, if that was the case, they would have done something like this with Jodie Whittaker because honestly, I think that's more. I don't think so, but I think in general that's more controversial. Having the doctor suddenly be a woman than suddenly being a black man.
Um,
That's how I look at it.
yeah, I don't know. It is interesting how they did that. I can see it being the hedging the bet thing. I don't know if they would do that because but it might also be kind of a way to open it
Mhm.
up back to the point where after Shooty, if they want to go back to a white male, then that door is kind of there. Where once you kind of start going a
Mhm.
minority and then going back becomes slightly difficult, you know.
Yeah.
So at least I could see that being the thought.
There's a lot of
Although
talk about hello. There's a lot of talk about possible spin-offs
yeah,
that
well,
David Tennant could talk about.
there's also been talk of a spinoff with the Eighth Doctor, who got very little screen time. He did the one Fox movie, and he did the Night of the Doctor special. Paul McGann, but he's still around. He's still young enough to be the Doctor. So there's rumors out there of a
Oh,
potential Eighth Doctor spinoff.
yeah, I'd forgotten what Paul McGann. Mm, yeah,
Yep, very nice guy too, by the way. I actually met him at Gallifrey one year, and I walked up to I was walking by his table, and nobody was there. And he just kind of struck up a conversation. So I hung out just
that's
chatting with him
amazing.
for like 15 minutes until he built up a line again.
That's I thought he was very popular. I mean, even before he was really popular.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the Paul McGann character. I would love to see them do more with that. I think it's kind of the lost era of the Doctor. You know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, let's see if we can bring up the one
But,
topic that
other than all of that, again, for it.
you're chopping up again. So, all right, let's try to bring up the curator. We talked about this just before the show. There is a character that was introduced in the 50th anniversary special. It was in the Day of the Doctor, the one that had David Tennant and Matt Smith and the War Doctor, John Hurt. It had all the heads pop up of the other doctors when they came in to save Gallifrey. And I love that. Love that episode. But that was the 50th anniversary special. So that's why they brought all those characters back. In it, somebody tells Matt Smith that the curator wants to speak to him. So the War Doctor goes on, David Tennant, the 10th goes on, leaving 11 there. And 11, of course, is just by himself. The painting's there, and he starts just going off about how, he could retire and be the curator. He actually says, I could be a curator. I'd be a great curator. I'd be the great curator. Ha ha ha. I could retire and do that. I could retire and be the curator of this place. And that's when the curator walks in and we see it's Tom Baker. And he says, I really think you might, in that very Tom Baker way of delivering lines. And 11 looks at him like, wait a minute. I never forget a face. And the curator goes, I know you don't. And in years to come, you might find yourself revisiting a few, but just the old favorites, eh? And to me, that's kind of what this bi-generation is doing. Now, if you didn't see it, what happens is there is a hang on a second. Jim's telling me he's trying to reboot. So, when he goes to regenerate, and I won't say why he's regenerating. I'm trying not to be spoilery, but when he goes to regenerate, it doesn't happen as it normally does, where his body just shifts into the new person. He starts having all that energy go, and then suddenly it stops, and he's got Donna on one side, and he's got Mel, the old companion from the 6 and I think it's 7 and 8 days. And he's like, could you pull, you pull that way and you pull that way. And they just start pulling on his arms. And in doing so, Tennant goes this way and Chudigatwa goes this way. And suddenly we have two doctors, and it's interesting when they split. Tennant's there in pants, shoes, a t-shirt, or an undershirt, a vest, while Gatwa's in a dress shirt, a tie, underwear, and socks. So it's like they split the clothing too, which I thought was an interesting touch. But the two coexisted at that point, and they keep it that way. They don't suddenly wrap it up. Hey, Ed, how you doing? They don't suddenly wrap it up at the end with, Tennant's doctor is now gone or whatever. They leave two doctors there, and they create a second TARDIS, which is, again, you'll have to watch the show how all that works. But we end up with, the 14th Doctor is still around, and the 15th Doctor happened, which is already weird because we're not sure why the 14th Doctor looks like the 10th Doctor. And that could be explained if this is the path that ends up with the curator. The fact that he's separate, the fact that he's revisiting old faces. But this also means that now Tennant's character's around to do specials, to do one-offs, to do little stories like that. And they could jump around and do something with Paul McGann, saying, oh, at this point he took on this face. Or at another point, they could do something with Peter Capaldi again, or Matt Smith again, or Tom Baker, or at least explain that's how we get the curator at the end that looks like Tom Baker. So that's kind of my thought on that, is that they're kind of cleaning up that aspect. They're not fixing, but they had left that out there, and it kind of feels like that's what this does. Is it suddenly, oh yeah, here we go. Now we know where the curator comes from. He's this retired doctor who's hanging out with Unit. He's living with Donna Noble and her family. So it just kind of makes sense that that's what they're setting up. Now, there's no indication for sure that is what they're doing. There's no, that show. They avoid doing specifics a lot. They hint at things. So, but yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. Now, I haven't had a chance to watch all three of the specials yet. I just caught different parts of it, and seeing the regeneration or bi-generation is what they're calling it, really was a surprise, And it's funny, I've watched a couple reaction videos to people who are watching the scene, and a lot of people are emotionally connected to David Tennant, especially with the way he left before. And they were they enjoyed having him come back. Hey,
my one consolation in all this is that I know you're really good at talking to yourself.
Yeah, I was explaining my curator idea and stuff like that, but I was just talking about seeing some reaction videos where you've got these people watching what looks like it's going to be David Tennant leaving again. And they're all emotional, and you see them kind of tearing up, and the energy starts flowing around his face, and he's got Donna on one side and Mel on the other, and it's this really beautiful scene, and he's about to disappear, and we know we're getting the new guy, and then suddenly it stops.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and he's like, this isn't right. Could you pull? And you watch these reaction videos, and these people, like, they've got the tears coming down their cheeks because they're like saying goodbye to one of their favorite doctors again.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they're like, wait, what? And then when they pull apart, and you've got them kind of like half and half in a V,
right?
Their reactions are like,
yeah, they're attached like Siamese twins, like at the hip,
Yep. And I gotta say, I know nothing about Chudigawa. I've never seen him in anything before.
Right.
But his energy,
yeah,
and just how, just that, like I said, that energy, that presence that he brought was like,
I called it joy. That there's some joy in it, My friend John, who's my podcasting partner, he has watched everything all along, and he said it was so wonderful seeing like a happy doctor again. He said, the whole thing about the flux, he said the weight of the universe on him and everything. And I think that's what they really were doing is like, let's have a maybe a little bit happier go luckier guy. And I said, yeah, I can totally see that. And they don't also fall into the stereotype of the angry black man or the brooding, or anything, like that. So maybe we're really going to get some kind of, joie de vivre going on here with him. I think that there was ways to give Tennant a happy ending without keeping him. So that one is still a little bewildering to me.
I think what they've done is, and this is what you missed, is, to me, they're kind of setting themselves up to be able to do one-off things, but
Yeah.
not just with Tennant. Because if they do then lean into the fact that he ends up being the curator,
Yeah.
and that line about revisiting a few old faces, so you could then do, well, we're going to do a Tenet special here, and then we're going to do something with Paul McGann, and oh, we're going to bring Peter Capaldi back for a mission, and maybe he's jumping faces and stuff, or they could even bring in some new ones and stuff, and kind of do two things. So you've got the linear, straightforward storyline, and then
Yeah.
you've got this ability to kind of revisit these other great actors who, what if Christopher Eccleston just said, you know what, I'd love to come back just for a special.
Well, he has, from what I understand, he has done some of the audio, the Big
Yeah.
Finish audio dramas. So that's all fine and dandy, and I can see the, that could be exciting and cool and all of that. I think the other side to that is when you have a divided fan base like there is now, like in many things in Star Wars. I mean, Doctor Who is not unique in that at all. I think you have it when people say, "Oh, I don't like what Shooty's doing or who he is or anything like that at all." Then you have the people going, "Well, he's not the real Doctor. The real Doctor's over here." Is David Tennant and Donna with Donna and all of that. And again, I'm going to go back to saying that's unfair to the new guy. Every single new Doctor has always been on their own to forge their own path.
Mm-hmm. But let's take a moment and think about Marvel did this same thing.
In terms of what?
Spider-Man.
Yeah. But not in the same well, not really. No. But then they didn't.
Morales into the main universe.
But that would only work if they stayed in Tom Holland's universe.
Miles Morales is in.
Oh, you're talking about in the comic books, but they're not the same person though.
No.
Peter Parker is not. I mean, no. See, again, I don't feel it's the same. This is the same guy.
No, my point being though is they're both Spider-Man.
Sure.
So in a way, what they're doing,
and I don't care much for that either.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that either from that point of view.
Yeah.
And if they started calling David, if they suddenly changed his name to the Curator, I would be like, oh, that's perfect.
Okay.
If he doesn't go by the Doctor at that point, if he decides to change his name, that would have been an amazing ending. Maybe not if he didn't say.
I will agree that could have been very interesting.
He didn't have to come out and call himself that, but he could have come out and said, what are you going to do now? Well, I'll relax, I'll hang out, maybe I'll find a job. I once thought I'd be a good curator at a museum.
I would have been happier with the way this is if Russell Davies had come out and said, and folks, that's it for this guy. Like he retired, he's gonna whatever. I know, but he didn't. Then I would have said, okay, but he's still out there. People are still going to keep asking for him. They're still going to be wondering about him, and on and on and on and on and on and on. So I think it kind of takes away a little bit from
I can
the launch of the new era.
I absolutely see your point. Is it doesn't give Shooty the reins. It doesn't completely give him the reins.
That's a great way of saying it. Yes.
But at the same time, it also allows them to go, okay, look, if you like Shooty, watch Shooty. If you don't like Shooty, then when we do something with Tennant, watch that. So you're kind of playing to all Doctor Who fans, because there were some Doctor Who fans who didn't like Jodie Whittaker. Now, I didn't like the Jodie Whittaker run.
That's right.
But it wasn't because I didn't like Jodie Whittaker. It's because I didn't think the show felt like Doctor Who. And I think that was more Chris Chibnall as the showrunner
Yes,
than it
yeah.
was.
My friend
Yeah,
John said that. He said, "I really like Jodie Whittaker. She just didn't have good stories. She could have
yeah,
been even more amazing as that character, but she was stuck with some really poor writing, some really bad stories,
yeah,
nothing creative, blah, 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 blah."
yeah. Like watching the first few episodes of her run, I remember literally thinking they do know this is Doctor Who and not the show about the companions, right? There
Yeah.
is a doctor in this. We're supposed to spend some time with her. Yeah,
It's interesting because we're being told that the new Shooty era is supposedly very different. So we'll see if people feel like it's Doctor Who. I know. I guess what it is this is it's like I'd rather have like I know this is going to sound weird. I'd rather have people forced to watch the new guy rather than giving them the option to not go ahead with it and wait around for David Tennant. The other rumor is that David Tennant is supposed to get like a 6-episode mini series. That's another one of these rumors that's out there. So
and if you, if
when
you
this stuff happens, I'm more than happy to like delve back into classic Doctor Who.
but if you have an actor like Tennant
Mm,
that is so universally loved, and he still wants to do some of the stuff, just not an ongoing series,
yeah.
why wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's what my friend is saying. He said Tennant really does love the character. I wonder what the conversations were like with him when they told him what they were going to do, and I wonder if he said, "Well, I feel like I'm going to be taking some spotlight away from Shooty if I do that." I'm surprised Shooty was even good with it, unless whatever it is they really have planned just so impressed both those guys, and they just said, "Yeah, like wow, that is the way to go." Because
Yeah,
otherwise, I can't see Shooty agreeing to be the new Doctor.
right.
I don't know.
But it's kind of in the nature of the series to have moments where you have multiple doctors at once.
Yeah, and from what I have not reached any of those stories yet. I'm just going into Troughton's last season.
Okay.
So it doesn't happen until Pertwee when we get the story called The Three Doctors.
We get the
So
three doctors and we get the five doctors
right,
and the day
right.
of the
They-
doctor.
well, from what I understand, there's machinations to get them together. It doesn't mean that, like it's timey-wimey stuff. It's
Well, yeah,
not like
yeah,
it's not like they split off and they still keep existing in the same universe,
yeah.
with it.
So,
But
but yeah, I like I said, I guess to me it's kind of exciting
okay.
the concept because um, I have kind of an odd history with Doctor Who in that I remember watching episodes on like PBS when I was a kid in like junior high and high school, and seeing Tom Baker and Peter Davidson. Um, so I was familiar with Doctor Who, but I really didn't get into the character until they did the Fox movie.
Hmm.
And I really liked Paul McGann, and then it was one and done because it didn't click
Yeah,
with American audiences.
yeah.
So when Eccleston came in, I was just blown away by him.
Okay.
And then Tennant, and I kind of started losing some interest at the end of the Smith run. And my biggest complaint about Doctor Who, having seen the older ones and stuff, I always felt like it was supposed to be a Doctor Who show, and the companions were Dr. Watson.
Yeah.
And in a way, it started getting to the point with Rose, it was kind of an equal thing. Rose got a lot of attention. And then they brought in Freeman, I don't remember the next companion's name.
Yeah, see, I'm not as well versed,
Yeah,
in.
yeah, but then it started going back to mainly being Doctor again. But we got to Matt Smith. Amy Pond and Rory were like really kind of right there with him.
Mm-hmm,
And then the Impossible Girl that came in, Clara,
mm-hmm.
I thought was way over the top, was too much. It
Okay.
became so much more about Clara than it did about the Doctor, and it kind of carried into the Peter Capaldi series that I kind of started losing interest. Because to me, it would be like doing a TV series called Sherlock Holmes and spending most of the time focused on Watson.
I wonder if that, I mean, number one, the companions have always been popular. I'm learning more and more and more their place in the entire Doctor Who universe, and I'm doing that same thing too. By watching classic Who, I'm talking a lot when we do our podcast about the companions. And kind of weighing them against each other and talking about their reactions to this or that or interactions with the Doctor. And I have my big favorites. My favorites are still Ian and Barbara from the very first companions.
Yeah.
But I'm actually right now in Zoe's second story after her introduction. But it makes me wonder if, like you said, if Clara became, kind of like the whole focus, I wonder if that was mostly due to audience reaction, that they were saying how much they love her or were following her story or whatever. I wonder if it was that more of that than.
No, she was brought in that way.
Okay.
I think they ramped up Amy so much over time,
Okay.
Amy and Rory, that when they were making the switch to the next companions, they felt that it needed to be somebody big that would really shake up Matt Smith's life.
Oh, okay.
And I like my companions to be good supporting characters.
Well, sure, and it goes back to the Dr. Watson thing that you're saying. I mean, they're obviously like Dr. Watson. They're us. The companions are us in the show. We can't be the Doctor. We can't maybe even relate as far as being on that alien level with him, and it's the same with Dr. Watson. We can never be Sherlock Holmes, but we might be able to be Dr. Watson.
Exactly. You see that in a lot of mystery stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be Nero Wolfe, but we could definitely be Archie Goodwin.
We can't be Batman, but we might be able to be Robin. Maybe.
Right, or at least Alfred.
Yeah, Alfred. Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm lucky on some days if I can be Chief O'Hara.
Great Scott.
Mother McCree.
Yeah.
Again, overall, I really, really liked the three specials. I like one a little bit better than the other. I'm really looking forward to the Christmas special now. So we've got 2 weeks from tomorrow is the Christmas special. I think it's really cool because we get it here at like 12:30 in the afternoon or something. I mean, it's fun. Like we get it right in the middle of the day, which will be cool on Christmas. So and the like the little trailer or scenes that we got from the Christmas special already are like what? So and boy are they pushing Chudy as not only like an action hero but like as a sex symbol too. How many doctors have we got that they can say that about?
I'm a little concerned about that. That's actually that's the other thing that's been bugging me over the years is the romantic interest for the Doctor. That was the one part of the David Tennant run I wasn't a big fan of.
Mm-hmm.
The connection to Rose. And by the way, if you think about it, this is actually the third David Tennant out there, because there's still the one living on the other universe with Rose.
Now that I don't know nothing about.
Yeah.
So I'll take your word for it. Okay.
Yeah. So to me, the Doctor was always asexual. It just didn't come up.
Yeah.
The Doctor's sexuality didn't come up.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like it's going to be a big part of the new character.
I was thinking it's more like the way Shooty will be presented, like how he was in the special. When they split, they kind of almost split the clothing between them. So Shooty's in his underwear basically, and with bare legs, but he has the sneakers, and suddenly David Tennant is barefooted. So we get a lot of like Shooty's legs.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got his shirt kind of open. I mean, I don't know if they'll necessarily go so far as to have him have any sort of, you know, sexual tension with Ruby is the new companion, you know, but it might be more like how he's presented to the audience. So I don't know what to say to that. Yeah, I only have had old guys. Older guys so far, you know.
You're gonna love when Peter Capaldi takes over.
Okay. Well, you know what? I did watch about half a season. Do you know what the first Doctor Who thing I ever watched was the Paul McGann TV movie? That's really, and then my wife and I went on to Eccleston, and when we hit Tennant, when he's at the very end of the Eccleston thing, my wife took an immediate dislike to him. It was like one scene, and she goes, "Oh, I don't like this guy," and we never continued past that. But we liked the look of Capaldi, and I said, "Oh, look, they're kind of going a little back to older now, you know." So we like I said, we lasted about half a season, and we kind of just got bored with it, and we lost track of it, and we stopped. So as far as classic goes, I mean, really, I've had William Hartnell and now Troughton, who you know is a little bit kind of older, and then it looks like Pertwee is like back to being even older looking guy.
He looks older, but he acts younger.
That's what I'm told. John has been saying. He goes, no. He goes, wait till you get to Pertwee. He goes, that's your action hero guy. And I'm like, what? Really? That guy? He goes, just wait.
Your James Bond. It was influenced by the James Bond success.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
So he's like trapped on Earth, but he has his own car, with a special car. He has all this stuff. He's his gadgets. It's a very different thing. And then when they kind of changed, and I don't remember if he came in as Tom Baker took over or if he came in after Tom Baker had already taken over, but you get Douglas Adams becomes the showrunner.
Yes, I've heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of what we end up seeing in Hitchhikers, and that starts with Doctor Who.
Okay. Yeah. One thing that's really struck me about current Doctor Who or watching these specials, and I've been saying it to John, it's like, wow, there's a lot of humor. Like there is where I'm at in the Troughtons, in what I've watched so far, there's bits of humor here and there, but there's not whole gobs of it like there is now. And he said, yep, he said that's the way it is. He said they have found that people seem to like, you know, like a whole undercurrent, you know, of humor. And it's really strange, but also kind of weird and wonderful watching classic at the same time as watching these specials. And I've been saying over and over again, wow, it's just like a different thing, you know? I mean, obviously the setup, we have serials, you know, you get like a 4-part, 5-part, 6-part, sometimes 12-part storyline, and then in New Who, it's pretty much like hour-long episodes, and there really isn't much in the way of overarching stories.
That's not necessarily true.
He tried to explain that there is some that do that, but I mean, not like the old days where literally it's like 6 episodes. It has an overarching title, and it's this story, and you get a little bleed through sometimes going into the next serial, you know.
Russell Davies didn't do many of those. They were more one and dones.
Yeah.
When Stephen Moffat took over, he would have overarching stories, especially with the Matt Smith era.
Yeah.
You know, there's one where he goes to America, and it's got Mark Shepard in it, and you know, we get to spend a lot of time with Alex Kingston's character. So, yeah, you haven't even met Alex Kingston's character, have you?
I haven't. No, it's like
River Song. No. Okay.
Yeah. Did you watch the Torchwood show?
I did.
Okay. I met Captain Jack because he was introduced in Eccleston's time.
Yes, he was.
Right? Okay. But I never actually saw Torchwood. Did you watch the Sarah Jane Adventures?
I didn't. I know of them, and I think I maybe caught one.
Okay.
But they were more geared towards children.
She gets name dropped in The Giggle. I don't know if you heard that or not.
Yeah, I saw that part. And
okay, good. And strangely enough, I know John explained Sarah Jane to me, and I know who she is and all of that, but even I felt the emotion at that moment, and not having the background of it, I got the emotion, the relevance of bringing her up. And I guess that is an official confirmation finally that the character is deceased.
Yes.
Like the actress is. Yeah, I was told that was never absolutely said that the character.
Yeah, rarely do they, other than Lieutenant, the actor who played the head of unit, his daughter is now in charge of it.
Nicholas Briggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that they did actually have that. Like he said that John said the doctor gets a phone call about that it's the Brigadier.
Yes.
Yeah, Lethbridge Stewart. He said that there's a point where I think it's Matt Smith where he gets the phone call to say that the Brigadier has passed away, not unlike how the actor passed away.
Yeah.
Wilf is still with us though. In at the end of The Giggle, he's off in the distance, but you don't see him, you only hear him doing something, and they talk about him.
Yeah. So you're saying you were introduced to Captain Jack Harkness, huh? You mean him?
Yes, him. Good for you.
Yeah, I might have met him.
All right, good for you. That's great.
By the way, he is super nice in person.
That's good.
Like ridiculously nice.
Glad to hear. I don't remember. Is he British?
No, well, sort of. He was born in America,
Uh-huh.
but raised over in Scotland.
Oh,
so
okay.
if you talk to him normally, he talks an American accent.
Okay.
If you get him around his family, it becomes this very thick brogue.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he was hilarious. He comes up, and there was a line of people to get pictures done with him and stuff. And he goes, okay, look, let's have fun. You want to spank my ass. You want me to spank your ass. All of that stuff. Just do me a favor. Don't just run up, jump, and expect me to catch you. My back's not that good. Give me some warning, but we're going to do whatever you want to do. So I went up and I said, would you hold the book I wrote? He's like, absolutely. And then I just gave him the book.
Okay. So, yeah, you just say, okay, you can just keep hanging on to that.
That's right. Just to hold it up in all the other photos too. Just
yeah, everybody else who walks up, could you just, I don't. You don't know what this is, but I'm going to hold this up in your picture.
Have you read this? He's at booth A33.
That's fun. So let's see, about how old was he then when you met him? Because he looked like a pretty young guy.
Yeah, he's in his late 50s.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, let me double check that. But
So
John.
among Doctor Who fans, is there a lot of talk about like his character? Like, where is he, or will he come back? Or
He's 56.
okay, he's a little younger than
He
me.
recently came back in one of the Jodie Whittaker episodes.
Oh, did he? All right. See, now I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Okay.
And he mistakenly thinks one of the companions, the male white male companion, is the Doctor. And then he is so excited when he discovers that that the Doctor became a female.
Okay.
Because Captain Jack goes whichever the way the wind blows.
Yes, that's how I understand it.
So,
That reminds me, I was told that when they have the scene with the companion support group, for lack of a better thing to call it, where they have a bunch of the older companions sitting around talking, and God love them, they have Ian is there, and somebody says something, they're talking about the Doctor, and somebody says something about blah 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 her, and I guess Ian goes, her, because he doesn't know.
yeah.
I thought that was really, 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 really wonderful. I'm so glad they had him in that scene.
Yeah. The only problem is I don't know if he's going to come back, because it came out that he acted a bit inappropriate while filming stuff.
Who?
John Barrowman, the Doctor.
Oh! I thought you were. God, I thought you meant William Russell, and it's like, no, please don't say that about. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh,
but the impression I get isn't that he's like trying to covertly get sex or something. It's more that he is just this very gregarious, open about sexuality and stuff. Like if you see him at a convention,
yeah,
especially at the Doctor Who conventions, he is just so open and free and dirty that sometimes he exposes himself for a joke. And in the Me Too era, people are going, no.
Yeah.
So that kind of came up, and
yeah, this
I
is
don't know
not
if
the
he'll be
world
welcome
to
back
be.
at this point.
I don't know if there's any world that you should be doing that, but this is definitely not the world to be doing.
Right. But I think the intentions were different.
Okay.
I think he was trying to be silly and funny.
Okay.
He wasn't trying to do. He wasn't doing.
Right.
He wasn't doing Bill Cosby stuff.
Okay. He's a free thinker.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a
There's a
swinging free thinker. He's in the wrong era. He needed to be like born into the 50s and grow up in the 60s, maybe, the later 60s.
There's a story about him getting hired on for Arrow. And there's two stories, but the one is they were talking to him on the phone and they said, hey, we got this great part for you, blah, blah, blah. What will it take for you to come be in the series? And he's like, well, who am I working with? And he's like, well, they're like, well, you'll be working with Stephen Amell and stuff like that. He goes, do I get a scene with Stephen Amell shirtless? And they're like, we could probably do that. He goes, all right, I'm in. So there's a scene where early on where we meet him and Amell is chained up. He's got chain over his head and he's shirtless. And supposedly Barrowman walks in and they're doing this scene, this very serious scene, and he walks up and he just tweaks his nipples.
Wait, that's not actually in the actual. No, okay.
No, but it's like the behind the scenes stuff.
Okay,
and I thought it was hilarious. Everybody cracked up. Or there's another one, and it's great. Both of them were at the Arizona Con one year, and you can find footage of both of them telling the same story of the very first time they're on set together. And it's just a simple pass by. And Stephen Amell walks by him, and Barrowman goes, Oliver. And and he says his name,
Yeah.
and as they pass by, and that's it. Well, as they pass by, Stephen then gets confronted by Paul Blackthorne's officer character, the cop, and he starts getting grilled. Well, what happens is they pass. Stephen turns to face with Paul Blackthorne, who is a very method actor, and he's just going off. And meanwhile, Barrowman's about to turn the corner, and instead of just turning the corner and leaving, he does this move where he throws his hands up, snaps, kicks his leg back, and goes, and gets Stephen Amell to just start busting up laughing. So, of course,
that would be a very difficult person to film with.
Of course, Blackthorne is like, oh, why are you doing this? You were, come on, I know you did this. And Stephen starts busting up, and poor Paul's going, why are you laughing? He just kind of carries that anger into that. But in the clip, you can see this video that's Stephen Amell telling the story. And then in a separate thing, John Barrowman telling the story. And there's a point where they both do the snap, smile, kick move. And the person's kind of cut it back and forth. So it's like this little dance between the two of them.
Wow. That would be, I'm sure the director really loved him.
He kept the set light. And he was on the show for the majority of the run. He played Malcolm Merlin.
Oh, I was going to say, who did he play? So he was Merlin. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
He was Merlin. So he was the Dark Archer, and he also went on to be on Legends of Tomorrow and was a major character. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I hope he does get brought back to Doctor Who, because Captain Jack is a great character. And he's... Oh, wait, you don't know that.
I can only imagine like scenes with him and Shooty, especially the way Shooty is in some of the scenes. I mean,
yeah, that's what I want to see.
Did you see or know that he actually kisses David Tennant on the forehead?
I saw them hug a lot.
Okay, he does. At one point, he actually like kind of pulls his head down and gives him a kiss on the forehead. Yeah. But it's really sweet the way it's doing it, because I mean they're the same person, but they're like brothers, and Shooty is comforting David Tennant, and at the end when they each have their own TARDIS, Donna and David Tennant go into Shooty's TARDIS, and Shooty's basically like, yeah, I need you out, and he goes, I love you, but get out.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I like that scene a lot.
It's got a good vibe to it, so I'm just going to forget for now that David Tennant exists and just focus on the new guy.
I like that the TARDIS is now wheelchair accessible.
Yeah. He's entered the 21st century finally, as Shirley says. Shirley, by the way, Shirley is my favorite character out of the specials. I just love her. I think she's great. So if they do a unit, spin-off, I hope she gets a lot of time in that.
Cool.
Hey, real quick, I meant to ask you the last time, and then you brought up a thing about the book that you held up with John Barrowman and everything like that. How is your new comic going that you're writing? Because I saw you mention it the other day on Facebook too, and I've been meaning to ask you about that.
That is actually not the one I did for them originally.
Okay.
The Morgana one, which is still moving forward. The artist is working on it now.
Okay.
But I'm actually doing another book for them. That they, it's going to start next month. I don't know if it's been officially announced, but I can tease it.
Okay.
I'm becoming more involved with Ethereal Comics. I am taking on a role of story editor.
Showrunner.
showrunner in a sense.
You don't call that story editor anymore. That's called a showrunner.
Yeah, so I'll basically be looking at all the scripts, working with the writers, making sure everything is up to speed,
That's great.
taking, the Dustin, the gentleman who owns Ethereal, has story ideas and stuff that he's kind of feeding out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make sure that it's consistent, and so I'll be working with them on that. But occasionally, I will step in and just when I want to make sure, like in this particular storyline that I'm working on, I want to make sure it gets kicked off in the right way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do the first couple issues of it, and then we'll probably pass it on to somebody else.
So kind of almost like you're the creative director.
Yeah, I mean,
That's another term.
We haven't actually said what the title is.
Yeah.
But story editor would be my.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like I said, if I feel that I want it, like this particular one, I really think because we're kind of merging some serious topics and some fun stuff,
mm-hmm.
and I think it really needs to be done a certain way. And it was just easier for me because I haven't had a chance to really work with the other writers yet and get to know them and their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I'm just going to knock this one out because we want to get it started. We have an artist waiting, so I'm going to do like the first 2 or 3 issues of it, and then we'll start looking for someone to pick up the series.
Cool. About how many writers do they have in the stable?
They've got a couple so far.
Cool.
But also I'll be looking for others and finding people to kind of match the tone and stuff we want for the stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have an editor-in-chief already. Okay?
Yeah, but they have like
what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to have like an art director and a story director or story editor,
mm-hmm.
and they've got the art director guy. So he really wants this to be a well-oiled machine.
Is it a shared universe or
mostly yes?
Okay, cool, love it.
Yeah, but they do have like 2 imprints. Basically, there's Ethereal and Ethereal Red, and I think the Red is a little bit outside of it. Or
okay.
I'm not 100% sure on everything. I'll learn more as we go.
Well, good for you. That sounds fulfilling. For a creative person. Great. That's great.
Yeah. Most they do their stuff through Kickstarter. There are some stores they sell directly to, but the majority of their books are through Kickstarter. They do like a lot of covers and stuff. It's kind of the new model for a lot of these smaller publishers.
Yeah, that's how I've heard things. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and some regular publishers are going this direction.
I was going to say, yeah, it's not just limited to where you're getting.
Brian Polito's Coffin Comics does this. Zenoscope does it. Dynamite is starting to do it. I mean, Karma was a Kickstarter book.
Yep. I remember.
Yeah. So
yeah, I remember unfollowing you through that whole thing.
I tried to do only 1 post a day.
That's way too much.
Yeah, I know. So, but yeah, so that's what I was working on. I got about 15 of the pages done the other night. I need to knock out the last 9 and
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
So yeah, it's a little slow for me because usually I can do a 20 to 22 page script in a day. As long as I know the story. So it's like I'll knock out the outline day 1 and then day 2 I do the whole script. But last night it took me a while to kind of get in the headspace. So I was only able to get 15 pages done.
Yeah. I understand. The bi-generation thing, really just wrecked your whole day.
It did. And just so you know, I will remember my writer friends when it comes time to looking for writers.
Thank you. That would be very cool. So are you going to actually at some point sit down and watch the specials? The 3
Yes.
stuff. Okay, good.
We'll probably do it over the holiday.
Yeah.
Lisa's going to come stay. She's actually going to come down Christmas Day and stay through New Year's Day.
Nice.
And we're going to catch up on the rest of The Witcher and the Doctor Who, because we used to watch David Tennant together. So stuff like that. So we
Good.
got a big chunk of time to spend. So we're going to catch up on a lot of the shows. We still need to watch Good Omens season 2, stuff like that.
And we still didn't get to talk about it, but that's okay. There's Legacy of Monarch Legacy of Monsters out there too.
Yes.
Although I'm not, I'm sneak preview of my opinion. I'm not overly recommending it.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Ed asks, when you're writing a book, do you visualize the panels and how you want them to look, or do you leave them up to the artist? I am the type that I've got the panel in my mind. So I will put in the things I definitely want to see in the panel. Yeah. I try not to go to the point of, I want it from this angle. I want these things in there. This is the background. I want a clock on the wall. I want the clock on the wall to say, 3:15 and 28 seconds.
Yeah. You're not Alan Moore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I do. I find a middle ground between what I really, really want there and then enough room that allows the artist to be themselves and to bring things to it. It's like, please. So, yep, middle ground is best, I think.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah. I should probably do a show one of these days, whether it's a Dan Wickline show or you and I just do a show about scripting and stuff.
That'd be cool. Yeah, you really should do that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
It's funny. I think every writer out there thinks that how they do scripting is unique. And probably, and most of the writers I know either think this is the greatest thing ever, and it's how everybody should do it, or they think I am doing it completely wrong, but it's working for me, so I'm just going to keep doing it until someone comes along and tells me better.
Yeah.
Because every writer I know is one or the other. They either think they're the greatest things in sliced bread, or they assume that anybody says something nice about their script, it's only because they're being nice.
Okay.
I've
never had any complaint from an artist. So I guess I'm doing okay. And honestly, although it has, I haven't done nearly as much comics as I've done with prose, that feeling of getting art in and seeing what an artist has taken what you've said and then what they did. And there's nothing like that in the world. It's just such a cool feeling to see your words suddenly become these incredible images.
Yep. There's joy every time you get something back and it looks so much better than you can imagine.
Yeah. Yes, exactly right.
And there's horror when you get back something and you look at it and think, I'm going to have to put in so many captions to explain what this is actually supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to change 6 lines of dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the way life is. So, but yeah, I remember going to a convention and I was friends with somebody who was friends with Joe Casey.
Uh-huh.
And Joe Casey was having this writing panel at Comic-Con, at San Diego Con. And he was afraid nobody was going to go. So he gets his friend Caleb and says, you got to come. And Caleb says, if I'm going, you're going. I'm like, oh, okay. So we go, and it turns out the thing is packed. We're in the last freaking row. And Caleb's like, well, we just have to stay long enough to be seen, and then we can sneak out. Like, okay. So I'm sitting there, and Joe starts explaining his process for writing. How he'll sit down and go, okay, these are my scenes I'm doing. He'll break it down by scenes, and then he'll number a page 1 to 22 or however many numbers it is, and then he'll put the scenes out, kind of stretch them over those pages and figure out.
Wait, that's what I do.
Yeah, seriously, that's exactly what it was for me. It was like, oh my God, that's how I do it.
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, well, I'm doing something right then.
Yeah.
That's
Or I've
great.
talked to other people who are like, oh, I just start writing and whatever happens, happens. And it's like, okay, I want you to hold still because I'm going to beat you now.
No, I think people say that, but I doubt that that's really what they do.
What's funny is I have done a couple scripts like that
Hmm.
where I've just kind of started and I got to the end. I went, well, that works.
Well, that's a crapshoot. I mean, come on.
You know,
You're
what's funny?
lucky if that works, then I
I
guess.
I plan out my comics way more than I plan out my novels.
Hmm.
My novels, I basically figure out the first third of a book.
Uh-huh.
I know the beginning, the middle, and the end, the basic beats. And then I plan out the first part and I start writing. And invariably, characters will start doing their own thing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then suddenly I find myself, instead of going A to B, I'm over here on Z. And I'm like, okay. And I'm at a third of the book and I've got to get to C now. So I
Yeah.
start planning to go back there. And sure enough, I'm over here and suddenly I'm on T. It's like, okay, well, I started getting back there, but now I've got to get to the end. And then I get a little more strict and
Yeah.
I get find my way to the ending. But I
I,
also want to allow the book to kind of find its own voice. And I've so many times had characters do things in the middle of a story. It's like, I didn't plan that. That was never part of it.
those can be magical moments. Yes.
In the first Fog book, I had two moments like that. One was I was writing it and I got to the point and I had Jimmy helping this guy who had become a werewolf. And the story wasn't flowing for me. There wasn't enough emotional stakes to it. So I killed the werewolf and I made Jimmy into a werewolf. So now my main character becomes the werewolf. The guy that I'm basing my entire series on is suddenly a werewolf. And at some point I go, I'll have to figure out at the end how to undo that. And then I was at San Diego Con, and this is the book I was writing live on Twitter.
Okay.
So I could only plan out so much.
Right.
Otherwise, I was just writing it live.
Right.
And I was at San Diego Con in my hotel room writing a chapter. I didn't know what I was going to do that morning. And I just started writing because it was scheduled to write. And suddenly Jimmy walked into a room and there were mobsters. And as they spoke, I realized they had Russian accents. And it's like, I just brought in the Russian mob. And it turns out it really made the rest of the book work.
Mm-hmm.
It was crucial that the Russian mob was brought in right then. Had no plan to bring them in the first place.
What if you don't know anything about the Russian mob, and then, but your imagination demands it? Then,
Then I researched the hell out of things.
oh, okay. But see, then don't things grind to a halt then when you have to do that?
No, actually, I researched pretty quickly.
Okay. See, well, then that's good then if you can do that. Yeah.
While I was writing last night, a lot of this stuff takes place on the ship. And I'm quickly looking up things like, okay, which side is port, which side is starboard?
That. Oh,
Yeah.
that old chestnut. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Or what do they call the little doors in front of the cannons? You know, turns out they don't have a lot of those on cruise ships anymore. So quick research, but yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, oddly enough, my brother used to say that I was the warehouse, the largest warehouse full of useless information ever. So I usually know a little bit about everything.
That's
And
the definition of a writer.
yeah, it's enough to tug on it.
Uh,
And then if I need something more, especially when I'm writing Fog because it takes place in the 50s,
yeah.
a lot of the research I do is, okay, he pulls out a flashlight. Did they have flashlights in 1950? What were
Yeah,
flashlights?
right. That's those kind of things that you look up on the fly there, and
Yeah.
you scan a Wikipedia page really quick and distill it down into the one fact that you need.
It's like, did they have phones? I think they had phones in the 50s.
Or you
I'm
could
pretty
just
sure they had phones. But
say artistic license
true.
when someone calls you on it.
But
I'm sorry, that's artistic license. Don't you know how that works?
But I really like to ground as much of my stories in reality as possible.
Sure.
And I will throw in things like names of real books, real street names, real locations.
Oh, yeah.
So again, to ground it as much as possible.
Yeah.
I always thought that was kind of one of the strengths of Marvel, is that they lived in the real New York City.
Yeah.
You know, Gotham and Metropolis and Crescent City and stuff. You could do anything you want to them, but New York, you know, Los Angeles, those you had to be serious about. Nowadays, I'm kind of the other end. It's like I've got this idea for a shared universe based on supernatural characters, and I'm coming up with fake city names, because I really don't want to worry about actual street names and
translation. You don't want to do the research, all that research. No, that's cool. I totally understand it, because there's something also very cool about, creating an entire place that's all your own to populate how you will, and if it's done right, then sometimes like that city or that town can become a character in itself because it's all yours.
Yep. So, hey, we got some good visitors tonight. We've had quite a few views. We got some good thumbs up and some likes. Thank you, guys. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. I'm probably going to start doing a few more things on here. I'm contemplating a crocheting thing. I've got a box that has the ability to make a crocheted Spider-Man figure. And it's really tiny. And I figured one of these days I'm just going to go live and I'm just going to make it live.
I have been telling you that forever.
But Ed says, this is probably a dumb question, but if you use real cities or real locations, do you have to get their permissions first? No, because, as long as you're not slanderous about them,
Yeah, right. Yes. But that would mean that somebody officially with that place would have to read your book.
Yeah, it's like if I suddenly did a book about the Vatican, like when Dan Brown wrote Angels and Demons. You could use the real Pope, but if suddenly you had the real Pope pull out a machine gun and start killing people, I think they would frown on that. So you might want to use a fake Pope name.
Here's a good example, Eddie. A few years back, I did a Ghostbusters comic book of the Extreme Ghostbusters, and the story was set not only in New York City but actually at the Central Park Zoo. But we did not, go to the Central Park Zoo and ask them if it was okay, But a good chunk of the story is actually set at the Central Park Zoo. So no. I mean, I toyed around with the idea of actually, once it was published and it was out, contacting them, and I thought, nah, they didn't really care for what I did. They might make, make a little fussy, ness about it. So I didn't bother. But no.
For some reason, when you say the Extreme Ghostbusters, I'm thinking, did you do a porn version of the Ghostbusters?
That's what they're called. I can't help it.
Because that does sound like the porn version of it.
Well, you know what? It was a cartoon series in the 90s, so maybe it was. I know.
All right, we're going to need to wrap it up there. So we went a wee bit over, but that's always fun. Thank you all for joining us. We will be back next Sunday for one last show this year, and then we'll take the final 2 Sundays off for the holidays.
Yep.
There's a chance we might have a special guest next week, as Lisa will be here, and she very much wants to know why Jim doesn't like The Princess Bride.
Oh. So I'll have the next 3 Sundays off. Oh my!
She will track you down and ask.
Okay. I have simple answers to that question.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very simple questions.
No guarantee she will be here, but there is a chance.
Okay.
So.
All right,
guys. Have a great week. I will see you guys. There'll be a news broadcast on Tuesday for the Dan Wickline show, and then Thursday I'll be doing the big show where we might talk about Maxwell Lord and the fact that they just cast Sean Gunn to play him. Can you believe that James Gunn has cast somebody named Sean Gunn? So,
the Doctor's Beard Podcast.